Let's start with the opening statements. I'm going to ask each of you that are here, of course Virgil is going to join us in a little bit, but I want to not only have you introduce yourselves, but also answer this simple question. Where do you as a candidate stand on the overall issue of climate change and associated sea level rise? What types of initiatives, both short and long term, would you support to plan for the changes that will inevitably result from sea level rise in Worcester County? Mr. Wilson, let's start with you.
Thank you. My name is Tom Wilson. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I attended Catholic University. I went to work for the government, and my background is financial management. During my career, I had broad experience. I've been finance director for the Peace Corps for 5 years, and I spent 20 years as executive officer with the African Development Foundation, working on community development, small business development throughout Africa. I retired 11 years ago, and my wife Patrice and I moved to Ocean Pines. One of the reasons we chose Worcester County, I had vacationed here, of course, as a child, like many of us, and we were attracted by the beauty of the coastal bays, the forest, the agricultural land. It's just absolutely wonderful area to live in, and the beauty is spectacular. Upon my retirement, I figured out that I couldn't just sit around the house and be retired. So I became involved with the community. I went to work for Diaconia. I've been board president for 2 years. I've been treasurer for 2 years. I've led a lot of new programs at Diaconia, helped expand existing programs. It's been a fascinating experience. I also have done volunteer work for the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore. I've been training local nonprofits in financial management to help them improve their stability. And I serve on the board of the Lower Shore Land Trust, where we work to protect open spaces, agricultural and forest land, critical habitat across the Lower Shore. I'm running for county commissioner because I think I can help Worcester County do better. We can do better in lots of ways. Brian asked the question about climate change and sea level rise. The sea level rise is happening. It's been happening here for 100 years. If you take a look at the tide gauges up in Lewis, I guess is the closest long tide gauge, you see a pretty straightforward increase year by year. Worcester County is already at least 1/3 water and marsh, and that amount is going to increase. We need to do something. We need to take action. We need to start looking at our land use planning. We need to start looking at particularly where we site public facilities and so forth to protect them from the inevitable sea level rise. Climate change is something I believe in. I know everyone doesn't. Frankly, I don't believe my house is going to catch fire, but I have insurance anyway. And I think we need to look at it that way. We need to prepare at every level in Worcester County to see how we can mitigate the effects of climate change and prepare for the inevitable retreat. Thank you.
Mr. Maycrans.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Maycrans. I'm running for
the TMDLs that were approved by EPA are going to require roughly a 30% decrease in nitrogen and phosphorus loading into the bays, and this is going to be tough to achieve. One of the things we clearly need to do, in my opinion, is to restrict new concentrated animal feeding operations in the coastal bay watershed, because they are major contributors. We need to look at, again, as I discussed earlier, crep easements and other easements that will help establish buffers along the bays and along waterways that feed into the bays to help prevent nutrient and sediments entering the bays. We need to look at how we can improve the stormwater management. I live in Ocean Pines. Everybody seems to be paving their driveways these days, and yet they complain about the water getting high. Well, you know, when you do that, you increase the runoff. The runoff goes into the canals, and the canals go into the bay. We need to look at a better way to mitigate the nutrients and sediments that flow from Ocean Pines and surrounding communities into the coastal bays. And there's lots we can do. There are grant funds available. The Chesapeake Bay Trust has established by the state also has funds available for the coastal bays. There's no reason we can't use that, but we need to be aggressive and go into pursuing this money. We can't just sit and wait for it to come to us. It's not going to be easy, it's going to take some time, but we can do it. We need to make the bays the way they were 20, 30 years ago. Thank you.
Mr. Maker, sand about where people stand, especially here on the shore, about the implementation or the proposed implementation of the phosphorus management tool. The state of Maryland, of course, is considering the adoption of this phosphorus management tool, or as it's commonly known, the PMT. It would restrict the application of phosphorus on farm fields that exceed established limits in order to reduce the runoff of the nutrient into the Chesapeake and coastal bays. Many respected Maryland scientists say this tool will bring the greatest reduction of phosphorus, and many farm fields in Worcester County are currently saturated with phosphorus and thus would be subject to the proposed PMT restrictions. Do you support or oppose the implementation of the PMT, and why? Let's start with Mr. Wilson.
Well, I spoke to every farmer in Ocean Pines, and they had no opinion. If the science is good, it's something that's going to happen, whether we support it or not. The state's going to tell us that we need to do this. What we need to do is figure out a way to do it to minimize the effect on our agriculture while maximizing the reduction of nutrients that flow into our bays and into our waterways. It's not going to be easy. There's a lot of there's more heat and light in this debate, it seems to me right now. I think that it's eventually going to happen. The state has postponed it. They're taking another look at it, but we're going to see it coming down the road. What we need to do is figure out how we're going to do it in a way that makes sense for all our communities here in Worcester County, but actually gets the job done.
Let's welcome Virgil Shockley, who's just joining us from a previous engagement. Virgil, let's give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and talk briefly about whether...
The governor told me some time ago when I would ask him how we can get more influence in Worcester County in the state. And he said, frankly, I can get more votes in my neighborhood than I can get all of Worcester County. And that's the reality. Okay, we're not going to, no matter how we vote, we're not going to elect people who are going to change the way things happen in Annapolis. There's just not enough of us. Annapolis is, in many cases, intensely partisan. We need to be aware of that. But what we need to do is not just go through the motions of sending letters and talking to people. As Virgil said, sometimes you need to hound people. You need to work the system. You need to talk to people who have influence over the process and build coalitions. As I mentioned at the beginning, I was at Diaconia for just finishing up 6 years on the board there, and I brought more than $2 million in money, almost all of it from the state, to Diaconia just by working the people. Going up, I went to Crownsville many times to meet with the Department of Housing and Development. I went to Annapolis and testified before the General Assembly. You have to work the system. You have to understand how government works. I've testified before both houses of Congress and the General Assembly, and I've worked with staff at every level. You have to know how things work and press the right buttons and pull the right levers to get things done.
Thank you to all of you. Let's move on to solid waste management and recycling. As I look
Most of my career working in Africa, and believe me, they recycle everything there. Mostly because they don't have anything. If your little bottle is important, anything they can get their hands on. It's very critical. I was thrilled a few years back when they started single string recycling in Ocean Pines. It's just so easy. I have a big bin, fill it up, put it out, they take it away, and it's made it much easier for the people who live there, and I think it works well. One of the things that does bother me is watching people come up with all their leaves in bags and they come and pick them up and they take them to the landfill. When I lived in Montgomery County, they have a whole system where they collect the leaves and compost them, and then they sell the compost. They have a very large facility and they actually make money there. I think we can do something like that. I would love to see that. Waste to energy, we did that in Montgomery County, and to tell you the truth, I have very mixed feelings about it. They built this big, giant waste energy plant, and when they started started doing more recycling. They discovered they didn't have enough trash to feed the plant. So they started looking around for where they could find more trash. It was sort of counterproductive. It was ironic. They needed to have more trash to make the plant work. So I have mixed feelings about that. I'm not totally familiar with how effective technology is, but if it works, it works. But I think we need to do more. If we really are serious about recycling and about reducing the waste stream, we need to look at the whole picture, how we do packaging, how we buy things, encourage people to think about how would they buy. If I go to Walmart or Walgreens to buy something, some little piece of a pen or something, the packaging is bigger than what I bought. So we end up creating the waste stream just the way we package things and sell things. I think we need to do better.
And finally,
Plan to convert waste into energy, it creates its own kind of logic, because then you need more waste. And recycling is, you've already invested all this money, so why recycle? Because that's going to cut your waste stream, cut your energy. I think that rather than do that, we need to look at more innovative ways to recycle, and particularly we need to go back and look at source reduction. I think source reduction is something that I don't hear a lot about here in Worcester County, but I think it's something that could be potentially make a big difference in reducing the amount of our waste stream. There are lots of ways to recycle. One of the difficulties in having a standard rule for the whole county is we have lots of different kinds of communities in the county. We have tourists, huge tourist community. We have agricultural communities, rural areas. We have built-up areas like Ocean Pines, and then little villages, Stockton, Girdletree, and so forth. And they each have different environments and different ways that they have to manage their waste. I don't think we can have a one-size-fits-all. The county is too diverse for that. But I do think we need to look hard at how we can recycle more, reduce the waste stream that goes into the landfill, and do a better job, particularly with some of the organic materials. Virgil said that's very important. We're able to recycle sludge and manure and so forth. We just need to do a good job. I absolutely support the critical area law, and I think it should be enforced. I think we need to enforce it rigorously. The critical area law is there for a good reason. We need to protect these areas that border our waterways, that border our bays, and it serves a variety of purposes. It helps preserve the wetlands. It helps keep nutrients and sediment from flowing into the bays and the waterways. It's very important. I absolutely support it. Particularly solar. I think solar has gotten to the point where it's economical. There's a reasonably good cost payback for what you invest, and there's lots of space for improvement. I would like to see, frankly, solar power on county buildings. I don't know why we don't have it. The state of Maryland had a program a few years ago, Maryland Smart Energy Communities, where they basically offered grants to local jurisdictions to build solar. Worcester didn't participate, but many others on the Eastern Shore did. There is a loan program that the state offers that for nonprofits and for Worcester County, and for local jurisdictions that will provide loans that can be paid back with the savings you get from installing solar and things like that. Wind energy, I don't think it's matured to that degree. There are lots of problems with variability and so forth, and the issues we see in Somerset are very difficult. These 600-foot towers they're talking about, taller than the Washington Monument. I'm not convinced that that's what we need everywhere around here.
Mr. Shuck.
Actually, the county did participate. If you go down to the rec park in Snow Hill, you will see a beautiful array of solar panels sitting right out there. We did it about 3 years ago. We were a little behind on that, but we had to wait in line because of the state funding. Because when the budget cuts, they ended up cutting the grant they were supposed to give. Anyway, two problems that you got. All right, when we did the comp plan, Carol and I, again, when we did the comp plan, we looked at transmission. If you, as a homeowner, want to put up solar panels, that's fantastic. Okay, I seriously looked at it. I
I come back over the bridge from visiting the Western Shore, family or some old
We always say thank our Eastern Shore here, because we love it. As I mentioned in the beginning, we moved to Worcester County because of the fantastic natural beauty of the county. Its coastal bays, the ocean, rivers, the forest, the agricultural land. It's a wonderful place, and I think we need to do all we can to defend it. I serve on the board of Lower Shore Land Trust, and I work hard with them to help preserve agricultural forest land, critical habitat, all throughout the Lower Shore, and I think we're making some progress there. We have such potential, we have such beautiful land, such a beautiful county. We should do everything we can to protect it. It's high on my agenda. It's high, I think it's very important. I did mention when you were talking about renewable energy, but back when I was working in Africa, I worked on biogas projects. And biomass is an area where there's a lot of potential for renewable energy here on the shore. And I'm looking forward to seeing more done on that. But I love it. Environment's very high on my agenda, and I will do everything I can to help.
Thank you all. One final question before we turn it back over to Kathy Phillips, who's going to have
More, and we are. The Lower Shore Land Trust, as many of you know, recently got a grant from the State Highway Administration to work on developing a bike path from Berlin to Assateague. And we've applied for a federal grant to actually implement that. And I think that'll be very, very helpful. We're also working on building bike paths within the city of town of Berlin to help people get around there. Just 2 weeks ago, I took a ride on the railroad. Rode with Eric Calloway from Bishop down to Snow Hill. And one of the reasons, Kate Patton, the executive director of Lower Shore Land Trust, and I rode with him. And the reason is we're looking at putting a bike path in the railroad right away. Eventually the whole way, but they have a 60-foot right of way, most of it, and there's plenty of room. The Maryland-Delaware Railroad really wants to do this, and we're looking for a way to find out how to do that, probably starting from Bishop to Berlin, the first piece, because that's the most population up here, but ultimately all the way. We need to build a network of bike trails. One of the wonderful things about Worcester County, if you're a biker, is it's flat. I personally love that part. The hills kill me. But I like to get out and bike. I think we need to do more, not just with the bike paths, but with the sidewalks. I'm pushing hard to get something done around Ocean Pines. We have a serious problem with 589. There are no sidewalks. There's no way to get around. We need to do better, and I think that we're working hard to do that.
Tom Wilson.
Mr. Shockley, let me explain in your closing remarks why voters in Worcester County should put their support behind you.
Tom Wilson.
Well, thank you. Thank everyone for coming. I want to thank the Aztec Coastal Trust for inviting me. I extended lots of invitations, not very effectively maybe, who knows. I get things done. At the I got things done. I'm working on getting some stuff done at the Lower Shore Land Trust. I love our environment. It's beautiful. I think I can make a difference. I think I can help our commissioners do better. I'm not going to say that they're doing a terrible job, but especially with Virgil sitting next to me, he's a big, strong guy. But I think I can help them do better. I think there are a lot of opportunities in Worcester County where we can make improvements. The environment being one of them. I really, as I said before, I really support recycling. I want to protect our environment. I particularly want to protect our coastal bays, which are critical for Ocean Pines. People on Ocean Pines live on those bays, live on the St. Lawrence River. We need to make it better. Thank you. When I would come down on vacation, I have 3 grandchildren, one more, 2 momentarily, and I want them to be able to enjoy the coastal bays, be able to swim and fish the way I did. But that's just not the case the way things are going. Brian pointed out correctly that St. Martin's River is rated D+, which is just horrible. If you go out there after rain, it's brown. The coastal bays are very important to Ocean Pines. We have many waterfront homes. I think there are lots of things we can do.
We need to take advantage of programs that already exist, such as CREP easement program, which will pay landowners to set aside buffers along waterways to help prevent sediment and nutrients from infiltrating into the waterways. There is funding to construct wetlands, artificial wetlands at the exit of some of the storm drains and storm sewers that again will help prevent nutrient and sediment from entering the bays. We need to look at the failing septic systems all along the St. Martin's River and other areas. There is money available to upgrade these. It will take some time and money, but the failing septic systems contribute a considerable amount of nitrogen and nutrients to the bays, and we need to work hard to make sure that those get improved to the best possible quality. There has been progress. Berlin no longer discharges into Trap Creek. They have a different system now. The plant Shell has shut down. They're no longer discharging into Shingle Lane and Cron. What they were doing before is still there on the bottom of the prong. It's mucked right now, and hopefully we won't go back to that situation where the sewage discharges directly into the bay. I'm optimistic. There are programs available. We just need to reach out and get the money.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.